So, hi everyone, and welcome to the podcast. We are back today at the Art of Hip Hop in Wynwood in the Nucleus studio, and my guest is Mr. Renda Ryder. Renda, how are you?
I am doing great. I'm great, and I'm grateful.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I think I've seen you doing your very first mural here in Wynwood. That was back in 2013 or 14.
The first mural I did in Wynwood, the one you're thinking of, that's
Yes.
2014.
That was 2014.
That was
the,
during Basel of
Yes.
2014. So I finished it during Basel, and then, that was 2014, and then I started 2015 off.
that was that blue
officially.
mural at the Nandi Gallery at the time.
Yeah, it was 23rd Street and Nandi Contemporary Art Gallery. It was a giant blue wall, and I wrote, "Love is a risk, do it anyway." Literally about a million times. About a million times.
So this was the very first one, but at the very first time that we met, I asked you to do a very special interview for the cover of the magazine with the Myra Wexler, with your mama.
Yes,
we
rest
are.
in peace.
Yes, rest in peace. We miss you, Myra. But then you were the very first one to interview her for the magazine.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. We
Yes.
did an interview. It was video and
That was
and
a video,
magazine
and that was the
stuff.
video. Yes.
Yeah, and that was before I did my first mural. I was an artist back then. I was doing art. I was doing a lot of upcycled art. I was doing art with like things I found on the street, furniture, wood. I was doing records. I was in the scene. I was involved. I knew people like you and all the people to know, but I hadn't yet done a mural. And I knew Myra, and
Yeah, well, she was a big supporter of the art. She was an art lover. She was our Wynwood queen.
Yeah, she was an icon.
She was an icon. She still is an icon. So since then, you traveled the world. You went all around Miami, all around Wynwood, Broward, everywhere, writing your art.
Yeah.
And you came up with something so different than a lot of people. You are a handwritten artist.
Yep. So that's like a term that I created.
Yes.
I created that term myself to describe myself because I'm an artist. So, artist is a term that fits. But if we want to get more specific, like what kind of art do I do? What subgenre of art do I fit into? Well, I fit into my own lane that I created for myself. And that lane is that of handwritten art. So I'm, closely related to typography artists. I'm closely related to graffiti artists.
Yeah.
I'm closely related to street artists because there's a lot of overlap in what I do and what all those types of people do. But what I do that is distinctly me is handwritten art. So it's just the art of handwritten words. I use my natural handwriting. So whether I'm using spray paint or a paint marker, the way the words come out of my hands is just kind of my handwriting that I've had since I learned how to write.
It really is, yes.
And, it's just kind of what I do. And I do a lot of like repetition of single words, repetition of phrases, sometimes quotes from people. But most of my work, most of the words and the phrases and the ideas that I put in my murals and my canvases comes from my background as a poet. Because I was doing spoken word performance poetry for, I don't know, like over 10 years before I ever got into visual art. And so I'm still a poet. This is my poetry. Now it's
This is a poetry. It's a visual poetry.
Yeah.
That's definitely. And you have those catchphrases. I mean, if you can call catchphrases, your comfort zone will kill you.
Mm-hmm.
That is you. Love is a risk. Do it anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Feel free to feel free. What was the inspiration behind all these quotes? Is this something that you heard? Is this something that you came up with?
Well, those three quotes that you just named, those are like probably my top three.
Yes, they are.
Quotes that people know me for. And they are my original phraseology, my own original quotes that I came up with. They all come from my poetry, and all three of those I came up with in 2012. 2012 was a very interesting year for me. 2010 through 2013 were very like pivotal years. I was just going through a lot, like as a person, and when I say going through a lot, I don't mean like hard times, or whatever. I just mean going through a lot. It was very transitional, some good, some bad, just lots of transition, And it was the becoming of the man you see now, So those 3 years were big years of transition. And those are in 2012 is when I came up with all three of those phrases. And your comfort zone will kill you. The way I came up with that is, as a poet, which I very much was in that time frame, I'm writing poetry every day, and the way I would write poetry is kind of by just like going inside my brain and like searching for memories and ideas and things that will give me inspiration. And then when I find an idea that I'm like inspired by, then I kind of translate it into poetry, so change around the words and make it more poetic or hyperbolic or metaphoric or whatever it needs to be. So as a poet and as a person that was just writing poetry back in 2012, I'm going in my mind, and I came up with this memory from high school. When I was running cross country in high school, my coach was always on the sidelines yelling at me and all the other runners. He would be yelling, "Get out of your comfort zone, get out of your comfort zone."
Oh, okay, interesting.
So, because when you're running a 3-mile race, it's easy to like settle into a comfortable stride.
I can see that, yeah.
And you kind of forget that you got to like push and beat the guy in front of you. So it actually helped that my coach would be on the side saying, "Get out of your comfort zone." And so that would just remind you, like, pick up the pace. So that was in high school. But then fast forward a good 15 years later, roughly 2012, whatever, I'm writing, and I was marinating on that memory. And I was thinking, okay, so what's a way to rephrase the idea of getting out of your comfort zone?
Yeah.
So just metaphorically, your comfort zone will kill you. It's a metaphor. It will metaphorically kill you. It can be literal too, though.
It can be totally literal, yes.
You can have a lot of habits in your life that are part of your comfort zone.
We all have habits.
Things will give you high cholesterol, or they will give you high blood pressure or whatever. So you can literally die from your comfort zone. So the statement is meant in a literal way and a metaphorical way. It's a way to just bring up a memory from my life. Like high school is where I learned a lot about discipline, a lot about creativity, a lot about expression, a lot about hard work, like all these virtues that I am so proud of today. I picked up on these things in high school and the years after. And so my life as a high school student, my life as a poet, all these things made me what I am today. And then Love is a Risk, Do It Anyway came to me around that same time. It was from a poem where I said, love is a risk, do it anyway. Life is a gift, you get it every day. And love is a gift, so give it away. And life is a trip, you might trip along the way. So
sweet.
So, that's the extended version, but I trimmed it down to just Love is a Risk, Do It Anyway, and started writing that 2012, 2013. And that was like around the time I met you. I was writing that on the street. I was writing it on cardboard, and then taking that cardboard and nailing it up to like telephone poles. And then Feel Free to Feel Free was another one. And I mean, that's just inspired by, like, that's really what I feel like. I just always want to feel free. Like, I'm clearly not like normal people.
You're free spirit.
Yeah, and it just really represents how I feel. Like, freedom is a huge priority of mine.
It is, okay.
I need to feel free. When I feel free, I feel good. When I feel free, I feel happy. When I feel restricted, when I feel micromanaged, when I feel like I'm under the gun, when I feel like I'm being too closely watched, when I feel any of those things, then I don't feel so happy. You know what I mean? So you got to feel free to feel free. And I think that also goes back, like, all these phrases, they're all connected to like the previous people I've been. The man I was in my 30s, the man I was in my 20s, the kid I was, the preteen, whatever. So whether I'm going back to high school or my early days as a poet or whatever, that's where these phrases come from. But this one goes back even further, I guess, because I remember my dad would always use the expression feel free. Not feel free to feel free, but he would always say feel free. Like,
just do it.
Yeah, it was just like a thing he would say, like, if you want to cut that in half, feel free to grab a knife, or if you're on your way, feel free to pick up a cake, it was always feel free. I just heard that a lot. And then as a poet, as a guy who thinks the way I do, I don't know, I just I like that. I like the way feel free sounded. And I was like, okay, feel free to feel free. How about we just double it up? So... yeah. So your comfort zone will kill you, and Feel Free to Feel Free are tattooed on my body. Love is a Risk, Do It Anyway will eventually be tattooed on my body too. But yeah, this is, what you're looking at and who you're talking to. This is what happens when a kid who's just obsessed with words because he grew up on hip hop gets into poetry and then starts writing poetry influenced by hip hop, and then later gets into art inspired by both hip hop and poetry and a lifetime of taking in all those things.
So once again, we are at the right place here, being the Art of Hip Hop Museum. I mean, this is, yes, pretty much every... It's very strange because a lot of artists that I interviewed here in this studio, I mean, there's a lot of connection, of course, between the hip hop movement and the street art and the graffiti. So, of course, knowing everybody here in Wynwood, I mean, this was the right place to have the museum of hip hop, the art of hip hop.
Yeah, it's awesome being here. I mean, I had a few minutes to kill before you were ready, and I looked at all the components of the exhibit, the photography and stuff. It's really cool. But yeah, I mean, this is me, like I am a product of this kind of stuff. I was born in 78. I grew up, in the 80s, 90s. I was just obsessed with hip hop, the aesthetics of it, the words, just every part of it. So like, yeah, this is...
Yeah. Oh, you're originally from Miami?
I've been active in Miami as an artist since like 2009, 10.
Yeah, okay.
But I'm not from Miami originally. I was born in Long Island, New York.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, and then I moved to South Florida when I was like 10 with my family. And so at age 10, I lived in Broward County. And I went to middle school and high school in Broward County. Then I went to college at the University of Florida up in Gatesville, the Gators. And then right after college, I moved up to New York again. And I lived in Astoria, Queens, and I worked in the hip-hop industry.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that was my goal. This was, this is way before I got into visual art and a little bit before I got into writing poetry. But this, we're talking end of college, so I hadn't yet gotten into the art or the poetry, but I was very into hip hop, and I didn't want to be a hip hop artist. I wanted to work in the industry. I consider myself like a businessman, so I moved up to New York and I got an internship at Columbia Records.
Okay.
Yeah, so I worked at Columbia Records, I worked at J Records, I worked at a few different record labels, but this was around the time that the whole record industry was downsizing. This was when Napster really took over and the whole paradigm of the music industry was changing and everyone was being laid off and the whole business model was disrupted. So I was trying to get in the industry when everyone was getting out of it. And which is cool,
which is
worked out. But
it is what it is. Yes.
Yeah,
what can we do?
But as I was getting out of that as like a goal for what to do for a living, I was exploring my creative side, and that's when I got into writing poetry and stuff. And so for jobs, I ended up doing all sorts of stupid jobs to make money working.
Exactly. Yes.
And juice shops and stuff. But during those years, that's when I started to become an artist. That's when the poetry started, and then fast forward, here we are today.
Here we are today, yes. So you also had a really big project with the World Peace Mural Tour that you did, writing World Peace. So this was also a big project of yours that took you in so many places here in the U.S.
Yeah.
Did you cover all 50 states?
No. I haven't done all 50 states. I mean, I've traveled quite a bit.
You did.
I love to talk about my travels, and I love to wear that hat like I'm a traveling artist. But the truth is, I haven't really traveled hardly at all. Like, like compared to what I want to do. Yeah. I've done 9 countries.
Okay,
that's
it's more than a lot of people.
Yeah.
It is
people, but I don't know. Maybe I just set high criteria for myself or whatever. But so I'm proud of my accomplishments and I'm grateful. But I'm just getting started, So I've done 9 countries out of 150 or something, and I don't know how many states I've done in the U.S., but definitely not all 50. There are lots of places that I just kind of resonate with, and the people there resonate with me, and I just keep going back.
Yeah.
Like Memphis has become like a third home.
Okay.
And I don't really know why. I never would have predicted that, but the first time I ever went to Memphis and did a mural was probably, I think, 2017. And I just kind of met some of the right people, and I kind of did it the textbook way you're supposed to do things.
I can see that.
If you're going to be a traveling artist and you want to make a name for yourself in various different cities, and you want to, increase your brand, your exposure, your whatever, all that, you need to keep good relations with people. You need to be on top of your administrative stuff. You need to be on top of your social media. You need to be organized, and you need to travel, and you need to just keep doing that shit and then repeat. And then repeat. You know what I mean?
Step and repeat. Yeah.
So I sometimes like to bring up Memphis for that reason, because it's just an example of like a place that I went to with no knowledge of like what the place is about, but I just asserted myself. I sought out opportunities. I did the research. I did the exploration. I met the people. I shook the hands. I gave out the business cards. You know what I mean? And so, so bottom line is, in the last, 8 or 9 years, I've done several murals in Memphis. So I have a lot in Memphis. I have a lot of murals in New York, a lot in Florida, in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and all that.
Yes.
But I've done California, I've done St. Louis, I've done, all different places. And then country-wise, I've done Puerto Rico, Haiti, Trinidad, Mexico, Italy, Spain, France, the UK, and I think I am missing one. I was counting. That was 8, but whatever. There are 9, and that was 8.
Portugal, Germany, Italy. No,
yeah, Italy.
Oh, Italy. Okay, all right.
Italy. I did a few murals in a town
one,
called Rimini, Italy. I did a mural at a hotel. I also did this huge mural in Italy that was like, I would honestly say like almost a mile, like maybe 3/4 of a mile long, not high. It was like a little like retainer wall along the Adriatic Sea.
All right.
So the wall was only maybe 3.5, 4 feet tall, but lengthwise, I would say it was like close to a mile. You know what I mean? So that was cool. It was like this little like retainer wall that went along the shore.
Yes. And did they ask you to write something in English or in Italian at the time?
I wrote World Peace in English for that.
This was that was the World Peace Tour, yes.
Yeah, that was all part of the World Peace thing. But I've done a lot of like what I call bilingual murals, where I'll write
I'm sure
World Peace in English and a different language, or I'll write love in English and a different language. But the World Peace Mural Tour is still going. It's I call it an endless tour, because it will never end. It won't even end when I die. And I like to say that because people are like, what do you mean? And then I explain.
I'll explain. Go ahead.
Here's the explanation. I call it an endless tour, meaning the tour will never end, but it will continue after I die, because when I get close to dying, when I'm like 85, 86, I'll find an intern, an apprentice, and I'll train them. And I'll say, this is how I do the murals. I want to show you how to do it. You just write World Peace over and over, and you change the colors, and I'm about to die, so you take over. You know what I mean? And so that's what I'll do. But
well, you should have people doing it right now for you all over the world. Like you have people putting stickers all over the world for some people that we know here.
Yeah. No, I mean, I like collaboration. I like outsourcing. I like involving other people, but also I like my own ego and, taking credit for the things I do and keeping them myself. So I'll wait till I hit my 80s, but but right now, I'm just having a blast. The World Peace Mural Tour, I'll keep doing World Peace Murals. I'm always looking for new countries. I'm looking into Jamaica. I might go there in June.
Okay.
And do at least 1 or 2 World Peace murals, and probably some other types of murals too. So I got my eye on Jamaica. I also would really like to go to some like places that need it, like Ukraine.
No, yes.
You know what I mean? Like Israel. Like war-torn areas. I mean, I don't really feel that crazy saying this kind of stuff. Like, it just makes sense. Like, if you're going to be writing world peace, and now I'm at almost 100 world peace murals.
Oh,
it's cool to do it in Fredericksburg, Virginia, or Miami, Florida, or whatever, Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Yeah, but it's not the same meaning.
But if I go do it like in the Gaza Strip, and I'm wearing a bulletproof vest, and I've got the local police and security guards all around me, and the news is covering it, you know what I mean? And that's a whole nother thing. It's like that's what
it would be.
Do.
It would be. It would be. Well.
And I'm working towards that. Like, that's how I see it. Like, that's why I'm painting the picture. Like, picture me in a bulletproof vest. There's police around me. There's security around me. There's people, like, monitoring the situation. There's media covering it. I'm up on a ladder. It's making the news, and today in the Gaza Strip, a temporary ceasefire while an American artist installs a mural for world peace. You know what I mean? Like,
this could be something. Well, you could be the next Banksy. You can do it at night and be like Banksy. That's it. Exactly. You just go on your own. You buy your own plane tickets. You do your little something. And then the next day it's on the news.
Yeah.
Why not doing it like this?
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm glad you brought up the World Peace Mural Tour, because that's just, it's only one thing I do, but it's a big thing, and it's needed.
It is needed.
So it's kind of like that's one of my things. So I have worldpeacemuraltour.com. I have a separate Instagram, World Peace Mural Tour, you know, so it's like just one of my things, but it's one of the things I'm most proud of too, especially the way it started back in 2016.
I was just going to ask, how did you get started with this idea? What was the trigger point?
It was like kind of a few things came together all at the same time. So inspiration-wise, what happened was I woke up one day with this song in my head called World Peace. And World Peace is by KRS-One, who is featured here in the museum a lot. So KRS-One put out this song called World Peace way back in 1988. But like I said, my inspiration comes from my memories and stuff. So one day in 2016, I woke up with like this subconscious memory of that song playing in my head. And so this was 2016. I had only been doing murals for like roughly 2 years at this time. And I had done the Love is a Risk, Do It Anyway mural and a few others. So I knew what my shtick was. I knew as an artist, okay, I do handwritten murals. It's my handwriting. And I know in terms of the words, it's coming from my poetry. But I hadn't yet stumbled upon like the one or two core subjects that you would eventually find in all my murals. So when World Peace popped in my head, the song, it just kind of clicked. I'm like, that's it. World Peace. Like it's a peaceful expression. It's innocuous. It's not controversial. It's widely understood. It checked all the boxes. You know, there was just...
It did. I can see that.
Yeah, there was just like this revelation in my mind. Like it was through that song. So I'm like listening to the song in my head and I'm like, okay, that's going to be the message for a good percentage of my murals going forward. And so that morning that happened. Then at the same time, I had also, you know, like I said, this was 1.5 years, maybe 2 years into me doing murals, period. But most of those murals I had done here in South Florida. And all I ever wanted to do, like in my life, period, was travel. And not just travel, like go on a vacation.
Yeah.
Travel with some purpose. So now, 2016, I'm 2 years into what I have discovered to be my purpose. So now I'm like, okay, I've discovered my purpose. The next thing is, how do I figure out how to incorporate travel into my purpose and make two purposes come together, you know, two desires come together. And so I was thinking, how do I travel, get out of Florida, go see other stuff? Because all I know is New York and Florida, New York and Florida, New York and Florida, you know? So, I just, that clicked too. I'm like, well, since the word world is in it, you know, like it's appropriate to do around the world. So that came together too. And then also at that exact same time, a friend of mine named Kathleen, who was a fellow poet who used to come perform at all my open mic nights. And that's another whole previous life I had, hosting open mics while doing poetry and stuff. And that was a little before I met you and around that time. You remember Stage 84?
Yes.
Stuff, right?
Oh, yes.
But so Kathleen was a poet who used to come to my open mics, but her day job was she was like an executive assistant for a very wealthy, retired class action lawyer. And he was a big art collector and he was very wealthy. He was retired. He was old and he liked to just put his money into art. So Kathleen told me, hey, if you need money for any kind of an art project, let me know and I'll run it by my boss, Mel. So that's when it clicked. I'm like, okay, so World Peace came into my head because of this song. That's the message. That's what I want to write. That's what's going to help me travel. But traveling costs money. Now, Kathleen is telling me she's got her boss who has money, so I need to type up a proposal, give it to Kathleen to give it to her boss. Then I got the money, I got a message, and here we go. You know what I mean? And so everything unfolded just like that. You know, she said, and it's funny, I've told this story on podcasts before and stuff, but when I typed up the first proposal, I was like, I'm looking for $2,500 to do 5 murals. Because at that time, I wasn't looking at it as an endless tour. I was looking at it like, okay, it's a project.
As a project, yes.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, Mel will give me $2,500. I'll do 5 murals in 5 cities. That'll be that. And I picked 5 major cities. They were New York, D.C., Miami, Dallas, and Los Angeles.
So you actually got the money. You got the funding for this.
So, yeah, so then I gave that to Kathleen, and then she said to me, she's like, $2,500 is not much for him. You might want to increase that. And
I had a zero, too.
Yeah, I was like, shows what I know. I'm just like humble and ignorant, you know? So then I bumped it up to, I believe, $5,000, and he gave me $5,000, no problem. He just cut a check for $5,000. And I was like, oh, okay, this is like my first lesson in like, you could do big things, man. Like you could dream big, you know? It'll happen. So
Yeah.
so I got the 5Gs, and then I did 5 murals with that, but then I ended up doing like 15 murals because I came in so under budget on those 5 planned murals. And that's when it just clicked. I was like, okay, so I still have more of his money left over. I completed all 5 murals. The message of world peace is still needed. So that's when I decided this will just go on forever. I'll just do it friggin' forever. So I ended up doing like 15 murals with his money. And then when that money ran out, I was still committed to doing it forever. So then I created a GoFundMe campaign to raise money for the next batch of murals, and I did another, I don't know, 15 or 20 murals with that money. And then I also just started putting in my own money, and so now I'm up to almost 100 murals, 100 World Peace murals, and they've been funded by a mix of my own money, GoFundMe donations, Mel's money in the beginning, and then sometimes it's just the client is just paying for it,
Yeah, of course,
themselves, like they would any other mural. But so now I'm up to like, I think 98 murals for the World Peace Mural Tour and over 500 murals total. And like I said, I'm in the middle of a mural right now. As soon as we finish this podcast,
Yes.
I'm going to finish up a mural. But yeah, so the World Peace Mural Tour, you know, I'm glad you brought it up. That's an endless tour. Is my life's purpose. That's literally how I describe it. Like, it is my purpose. The reason I'm on Earth is to do this kind of stuff, you know. It's to do art in general, but the World Peace Mural Tour is a very specific aspect of that. So I'm just a person that discovered their purpose and then decided to commit to serving it.
Yeah, that's wonderful. This it's having a purpose in art, having a purpose in life.
Yeah.
In general, creating memories, creating some attention. And right now, I mean, we are in such a need of all these words and those good words right now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is, you know, year after year, there's always something going on or going wrong in this world.
But also, everything is always right. You know, like, it depends on how you look at it. I mean,
it depends on how you look at it, yes.
My head is not in the clouds. I'm very aware of, like, all the effed up stuff going on.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also, like, take a few seconds to switch and say, yeah, but look at all this going right. You know, like, the truth, there's war happening, there's poverty, there's all sorts of stuff, there's political unrest. All that is very, very true. But, like, it is possible to relax for a minute and realize, like, the world is literally in perfect harmony right now. You know, like, there's
I don't know about that.
But that's what I'm saying.
I got a hard time to believe that.
It's just the point of view. So you might have a hard time believing that for a few minutes.
Yeah.
But I'm saying you can, the next few minutes, you could just switch and say, let me adopt this point of view for a few minutes. Let me forget about the wars and the political unrest. Let me focus on the fact that there's a giraffe growing in Africa right now that needs no help or assistance. You know what I mean? Like, he just gave birth to a baby giraffe, and now that baby giraffe is learning how to eat from its mother. And you know what I mean? Like, the divine harmony of nature is always perfect.
Well, yeah, the world is going around, that's for sure.
Yeah, like, life goes on. Like,
life goes on, unfortunately.
Despite the particulars and, like, the man-made stuff, nature, the world on its own is thriving. It's flourishing.
No, it is. And even more so here in the Wynwood community. That's why so many people come to Wynwood, just to look at the art.
Yeah.
And that's why we were talking in different podcasts. This is what we like. The art makes you feel something. You want to express yourself. You can appreciate what the artist did or not.
Yeah.
And then it's a reflection of so many different things.
Yeah, that's why art is cool. It's a reflection of things. It reflects the times, and it reflects the artist's point of view. You know, on worldpeacemuraltour.com, I have, right there on the main page, I have a link to a YouTube video of Nina Simone saying the artist's job is to reflect the time that they're living in. And it was like a short clip. It's like a 15-second clip of Nina Simone basically saying that. I pretty much quoted her directly, but that's kind of what she's saying. She says it is the job of the artist to be a reflection of the time in which they are in.
Yes.
And so I put that on worldpeacemuraltour.com because, yes, I embody that quote with all the work I do, but one of the reasons why I'm writing World Peace is because I am a reflection of a time where we need to hear that over and over.
All right. Well, Renda, thank you so much for these few minutes, for this very interesting podcast, for what you do, continuing of doing it, that project going on, and the force with you. I mean, you are everywhere in Wynwood.
Yeah, you know, and with that being said, I just want to give props to Wynwood in general. There's no person I'm talking to because there's no person in charge of Wynwood, but Wynwood is just a glorious place, you know. And I know
it really, really is. Yes,
I know you've gotten the same kind of inspiration from it.
Totally.
You're very OG, and so am I. We've been in this neighborhood for years, but I mean, just let's take a second to be grateful for Wynwood, for the place called Wynwood, the businesses that are in it, the businesses that were once here, just everything about it, man. You remember when you didn't have to pay to park? You remember when every street was two ways? Every street was two ways?
Yeah, it was two-way street, yes.
So, and I'm not one to lament how it's changed, because I like how it's changed. It's cool. This is the modern Wynwood. It's very, 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 very different, but it's cool.
It's cool.
And I like the old Wynwood too, and I like the fact that people like me and you have grown up with it, grown alongside with it. It has grown with us. It has made us who we are. So I'm not 100% based in Florida anymore, and I'm not on the streets of Wynwood every day like I once was. Now I'm all over the freaking world, but no matter where I am in the world, I'm taking a piece of Wynwood with me. It's in me.
You call Wynwood home anyway, so.
Yeah, I mean, Wynwood is just, it's the shit, bro. It's like,
it's the shit.
It's what made me what I am, man. As far as murals, for sure. I was doing art before I ever came to Wynwood, but as we discussed, my first mural was in Wynwood, and murals are my obsession. You know, like, I will admit I have a very unhealthy obsession with what I do. I am obsessed. I am ridiculous. You know, I'm like, really, I am ridiculous. I am insane. I am out of my mind. And that's the key. That's the key to success. You want to be good at something? Be unhealthily obsessed with it.
Well, this is what the purpose is. Yeah. This is what your purpose is. It goes back to the purpose.
When you're serving your purpose, there's no I don't think anybody's purpose fits with balance. You know what I mean?
No.
Unless your purpose is to be balanced, maybe, but mine is not.
Well, you're going to have to do some yoga in that case and take some yoga classes and everything, which is not me, but...
I dabble in yoga.
Oh, I'm sure you did.
To balance it out. But I also like to maintain this idea that I am literally insane, you know? Like, and recently I've been focusing on that. It's kind of funny, but so to get people laughing, it's kind of true. I'm like, oh, well, while you laugh, in my head.
Whatever, yeah.
But, you know, it's just a way of like playfully describing my work ethic. You know, like, I'm obsessed with art. Give me a can of spray paint and I'm like a kid, you know, leave me alone. Give me some paint markers, whatever. Give me a canvas and leave me alone.
Yeah. All right. Well, okay. Well, we're going to leave you alone. Thank you so much once again, Renda, for these few minutes. I mean, this is incredible. Keep on writing.
Yeah, I won't ever stop, man. I've broken my arm and still kept writing. I got hit by a car while I was doing a mural.
What?
I did a mural the next day. Yeah, here in Miami in September. I got hit by a car, and then I did a mural the next day. I spent 7 hours on a mural the day after I got hit, and I was in the ER. I had a CAT scan, I had an X-ray, the whole nine. This car hit me right in my leg. But that's what I'm saying. That's insanity. Like,
nothing happened to your hands.
Nothing happened to my hands.
Yeah, that would have been
in
that car accident. Yes.
Yeah, my hands are generally effed up. My whole body is, but you know, again.
Well, we all getting older. I get some arthritis, holding the pants, and then so tight and everything.
That's why I try to swim in the ocean as much as possible. That's
okay. All right.
The ocean is a healer.
The ocean is a healer. All right, so we're gonna.
That's my advice.
Yes, that's some advice. So, guys, just follow Renda's advice
and you'll be
and go swimming. All right. Thank you again, and we'll see you soon. So, guys, this is it for today's episode of Write Your Narrative. I mean, talking about writing your narrative. You've been writing the Wynwood narrative.
Yes, I'm very
for
much
sure
in charge of my narrative and the way it's written.
All right. Thank you so much again. Have a great day. Bye-bye now. Thanks.
Bye.